my redshirt junior year.
Oh, okay.
The other splits were not even splits. When I would get time, it was like we were up 3-0. Let's throw Tracy in for 15 minutes. We're up 5-0. Let's throw her in for, the reserves go in. That's what I was getting my redshirt freshman, redshirt sophomore year. I was not getting equal minutes. It wasn't until I really started to be more consistent in training that Anson felt like, okay, let's split them 50-50. So that it just took me a lot longer to get to that place.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. That adds up. Yeah. I was trying to connect all the dots with the numbers because the record keeping, it's all in different places now. And I'm trying to put it all together. So that's good.
I'm surprised you can even find it.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a dig. This is from 92. You're in the bottom left, first row, second from the left. I'm pretty sure that's you.
Yeah.
I feel like, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes a little bit. This of okay, not quite getting the minutes we want, but as you're talking about loving being a Tar Heel, that's kind of the look I see of maybe XYZ, we'd want this, that, but this is my team. This is who I want to be with. That's, I don't know if any memories or any thoughts that come up with this picture, but the smile was great. I loved the setting. I thought it was.
That was actually, I think that was at Duke. Looking at the stands in the background, that's definitely not our home field. I'm pretty sure that was at Duke. Okay. It looks like it might have been an ACC championship. I'm not sure. Okay. But yeah, I cherished my time at UNC because I just had such love and respect for my teammates. We had such a great diversity of personalities in our teams. And I just always felt like I belonged. So I think that's the piece that even when I wasn't playing, it was okay because I had a bunch of other teammates that were supportive of me and wanted me to be there. I felt like, I was valued. And so I think that's what you see. And that's why I chose to stay because I just had such a great time and connected so well with so many cool personalities on that team and just really unique women.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Very good. Well, jumping ahead to your last 2 years, your minutes skyrocket, and you're still splitting some time, but you start to overtake Shelly, who has been a fairly established goalkeeper at this point. So, was there sort of a sense of I did the thing that I set out to do, or was it kind of a surprise of oh man, they're making a shift of you get named captain your senior year? I guess I'm curious of how you viewed yourself in the team where at one moment you're into the bench, and then I'm sure, very quickly. I say quickly, it
wasn't quickly. Not in my mind, it wasn't. It took years.
But going into senior year, you're getting minutes. So how did you view yourself in the team, knowing that hey, I'm taking a totally different role here? How did that all develop?
I don't think that's how I kind of viewed it. You don't when you're in it. So the biggest shift was coming into my redshirt junior year when Shelly was a senior. Shelly won 3 national championships. She was clearly the starter. And so in my mind, there was a clear shift. That's when I finally started to see sports psychologists. So this is an era when you didn't have sports psychologists for the athletic department like they do now. I took a sports psych class at school as part of my, curriculum. And in that, I think that was that spring, heading into my redshirt junior year, and found it very interesting. So that was kind of the first time that I had gotten a little bit opened up to that, as well as at Soccer Plus, Tony always had a sports psychologist on staff that would speak to the goalkeepers. And so I'd been exposed to 2 different sports psychologists through that environment as a student. And then when I was in college, I was a staff coach working those camps. And so between my professor and working a little bit with my professor, I had the opportunity to kind of privately, seek out that professor outside of class on a one-on-one type of basis. So that helped. And then that summer, working with one of the sports psychologists when I was working camps, just did a lot of individual work as to what my mindset was going to be. And the biggest piece, obviously we talk about it all the time, is control what you can control, all of those pieces. And I just really started to identify all the places where I was, giving my control away and putting pressure on myself. And so basically I took all it's the shift that we also talk about now of outcome focused versus process focused. And so I just took the target, the goal of starting, which was always like what I was gunning for, completely off the table. It was like, well, Shelly's a senior. She's won 3 national championships. She's going to start. Like, she's a good goalkeeper. She has every, reason for me to believe that she's going to start. And so I just was like, let's just take that off the table. You've got your red shirt senior year. After she graduates, that'll be my year. So that was kind of like how I went into my year. It was like, all right, you're going to be the backup. That's how it's played out. But that doesn't mean I stopped caring. And it didn't mean I stopped like trying. And I think that's the shift that some people, it just meant I shifted what I was paying attention to. So it didn't matter what Anson was going to do. It didn't matter, all these other pieces, the feedback that I was getting. It was like, okay, what do I enjoy? I enjoy being a goalkeeper because I enjoy shutting down my teammates. What are my pieces that I'm still going to commit to being fit. I'm still going to try and be the best goalkeeper I can be. And it's just really started focusing on that to a whole nother degree. And lo and behold, things fell into alignment when you stop focusing, on the stuff that you can't control. And I started playing for fun. There was joy in my game. There was consistency. And that was at the end of that preseason when Anson's like, we're going to split. And we're going to split the season. And we're going to make the ACCs and the NCAAs. We will go with one goalkeeper at that point based on who we think plays the most consistently throughout the season. So the season became kind of the competition to determine who went into postseason. And that was the season that I became the starter in postseason. And I would not have ever predicted that. It was largely just based on taking the pressure off of myself, that piece that I put on myself to be the starter. When things, that one will take care of itself when you stop focusing on it.
And maybe you just said it, but talking about the sports psychologist, I feel like anyone I've ever talked to that has either seen a sports psych or seen a therapist or a counselor or just talked to someone, they kind of come away with this like very specific one sentence or phrase or idea that like, oh, this is a huge relief for me, that like I had not really considered this or I hadn't viewed it this way, but you know what, this is right. And this is now kind of my new compass, that like this is my new thing I'm pointing towards. Did you have any sort of that moment with the sports psychologist of kind of like, oh man, like that's completely right. This is the direction I need to go now for myself?
I can't say there's like one moment, and I can't say that we even, some of the stuff like process versus outcome, all these terms that we are so catchphrases nowadays, these were not the terms that we were using back then, but it was clearly what we were doing and shifting. I think the biggest shift for me was just to stop shifting my attention. Like I was paying attention to what Shelly was doing in training. I was paying attention to the feedback she was getting from Anson. Why is Anson always looking at Shelly when she makes a great save? And why is he always looking at me when I make a mistake? Like, this is where my mind was. And if that's where your mind is, you're not fully focused on being present. And goalkeeping is really, as you know, demanding of being in the moment. And so, that's why you're going to have inconsistencies. And it's just everything about being in this negative mindset, this negative loop, instead of, focusing on the things that I can control. And so that was just really it for me. And it took some practice. It took me actually actively, sometimes I would have to actually actively look away because it was really hard for me to not get swept up in like comparing myself one-to-one with Shelly. So I had some different strategies so that I would train myself to not get so comparison minded.
Well, and I think the reality is most goalkeepers are not in a position where it's so neck and neck. Like if it is that, one thing happens really quickly, that like either someone like drops out or someone really gets ahead or someone moves away. They're like, no, I'm not going to be in this environment. I'm going over here. Especially now, like there's very few at any level where it's really competitive. Goalkeepers are splitting time and then goalkeepers stay in that environment. But I think, to be fair, everyone that's been in that environment, like it is very easy to turn on your teammate mentally of like, I wish they would mess up. I wish the coaches would be more critical. And then like you can very easily feel a little bit better, but it's kind of a false negative of
correct.
Like I'm getting distracted and caught up in something that is maybe even fictional. So I'm over dramatic, making a bigger deal about something.
Correct. It's your perspective, and it's not an unbiased perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's just not a healthy place to be, and it breeds negativity. It's just not a good place to be. And so I just got back to like playing for joy and playing, enjoying showing up to training, because I was fortunate enough to get a beautiful place, great teammates, great school. Like, there's so many positives, till there's one little nugget. Yeah, I'm not starting. Okay. But there's a gazillion positives out here. So let's start focusing on all those. And
then, not a coincidence. You start playing better. You start, like you take away those distractions and you just kind of focus on yourself. Yeah, the ceiling does rise to yourself. And I kind of stupidly didn't clip. Sorry, but I wanted to show this. I'm pretty sure this is from the '94 final. You might have to correct me. Okay, very good. You know exactly what it's from. I will say, to just point out, I always loved how any clip of you diving or coming out for a ball, how parallel you get. You have so many goalkeepers, like it's just not a thing you see as near as often anymore. But you ain't getting your hips up so much, and it's just like it's a monster get. And I just also think it's funny. I think people think, oh, the 90s, everyone just kind of sat in the line. Like, no, that's actually not. That's not what a lot of goalkeepers are doing. So like not only coming for this ball, but like you're getting your hips up to a point where you're getting very flat. It's not a ball you have to go get. You could leave that, obviously. But I saw this, I was like, man, you just don't see that kind of action very often.
Well, thanks. Certainly one of my favorite games to recollect, for sure. Good memories there.
Welcome to the Keeper Institute podcast. My name is Tori. I'm a strength and conditioning and goalkeeper coach here at the Keeper Institute, and your host for today's show. The Keeper Institute is a unique goalkeeper training facility in New Jersey aimed at developing better goalkeepers and better people. On this podcast, we will be discussing all things goalkeeping, character development, and more. Welcome back to another episode of the Keeper Institute podcast. Jill was giggling. It threw me off. It's the first one of our new year of 2026, and honestly, I hope that doesn't get edited out. So I liked it. It's a little riff never hurt nobody, as I like to tell Jill.
Well, I was laughing because we have a guest on the show. Well, she's not really a guest. She's a guest for all of you, and it's her first time on the show, but she's going to be on the show more often. And I was just curious to see if Kira was going to do the air horn, because she was an avid listener of the podcast before she is now appearing on it.
I don't know if I was supposed to get into that.
It's an
That's
all
your thing, guys.
Experience.
I'm just a guest for today.
I think you should do what feels good for you and be authentic to yourself here. If you like the air horn, you can jump in. If you don't, it's cool. We'll rethink your position on the podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, I'll start practicing my air horn skills.
Well, that was a spoiler alert, because Jill already gave you our brief overview of our new friend and guest today, but regular in the future, Kira Ketelhut, a new coach to TKI, part of our coaching college. She's joining us from Washington area.
Washington, D.C., yeah.
I felt confident, and then I wasn't confident, but we're super excited to have her. I'm going to do a whole podcast with her in the future, so I'm not going to give you all the details because I'm going to save that for later. But she's joining us today, and you're going to get to hear her voice and hear her opinions, and Jill and I are just pumped, per usual, to be talking about goalkeeping, talking about what we love with people that we really like.
Yeah. Super pumped to have Kira to offer insight on another generation, because I'm in my 40s, Tori's in her 30s, you're in your 20s, and everybody on this podcast hopefully can relate to all of our insight and experiences and now Kira's.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
I feel like I'm old. I feel like Jill just called me old, which is like cool. I feel
you aged out, actually.
Well, I'm always going to be older than you, Tori, so you're good.
True. All right. Speaking of aging like a fine wine, we're about to talk about the off season with our pros that we work with. We have an incredible group of women that we get the opportunity to work with for a few weeks in their off season before they head back to their professional season. And this season was no different. We had a great group, some new people, some people who've been with us for a while. But Jill's going to give us some of our takeaways, and we're going to chat it up.
Yeah, I'm excited about this because obviously I always say that, but I am really excited about this because I think you have these experiences that are so enjoyable and sometimes really hard and challenging. And I think sometimes we don't really fully appreciate it until we reflect upon it and we have some takeaways from it. And sometimes, like when you're in it, you're just experiencing it and you're in the flow and you're in the vibe, and you're not really thinking at all. You're just going with the flow. And I think, after on our way home, just reflecting upon our experiences, I had some really good takeaways from it because it felt really good in it, right? Like it felt really really enjoyable when we were at TKI and training for a few weeks before Christmas. And then when we got to San Diego, it was like one of the most enjoyable weeks of goalkeeper coaching for me, with 12 really incredible humans that we were working with and the rest of the staff that we got to work with. But my number one takeaway was I wanted to give some insight onto how do you even prepare for something like that. So you're working with 12 pros, all at different ages and stages in their careers. And you would think, okay, we're working with some of the best pros in the world. Where do they go from here, right? What do you work on when you're working with some of the best players in the world? And I think the natural inclination really is to think about perfecting things because you're like, yeah, I'm already solid on all these things, but the natural inclination is how can I perfect something? And it really started making me think it's like perfection really doesn't exist in goalkeeping, and really the aim isn't perfection. It really is trying to be as efficient as possible, trying to be the most efficient problem solver as possible, and setting up situations that allows for efforts to find that efficiency, because you cannot coach all 12 of those goalkeepers in the exact same way. There's no right way to interpret the position. There's no one way to interpret the position. It's not a position that's like a cookie cutter thing. You have to be able to adapt and be as flexible as possible based on the skill set that you have. So I think it's really important that, for me, one of my takeaways is how can I help each goalkeeper understand themselves more and understand the game more so that they can interpret it in the highest and most efficient way that's specific to each of those individuals. Now, we're super fortunate because we have principles of play at TKI that help goalkeepers understand situations, and those principles of play can help them solve any single problem that is placed in front of them. But it's not only one solution to that problem. It's based on how they see it, what's unfolding in front of them, and also what skill sets do they have to be able to solve those problems. And you can solve problems in a multitude of different ways, just trying to help each goalkeeper figure out, hey, I'm really good at this, but also having a little bit more awareness of I struggle with spreading to my right. That's just not my strong suit. So I have to rely on smother to that side more right now, in the interim of me trying to figure out how to solve that with a spread and get into that shape. So that was a big one for me, is that we should just lose this idea of perfection and just embrace efficient goalkeeping.
Biggest word I feel like I'm using right now in my coaching is effective or efficient. Either one, I guess, kind of interchangeably depending on the scenario. But when you talk about it in that way, you do give each goalkeeper the autonomy to handle things in their own way, because it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't have to look great. It just has to work for them. And it has to work over time, right? It might work once, but not be the quote unquote right thing for you. But if it works for you over time, then it probably is effective. It probably is efficient.
I think that brings us back to like our masteries of our ABCs tour, and like one of our our first tenets of what we're hoping to develop in players is adaptability and autonomy. And really all that means is, can we help you have as many tools as possible in your arsenal, as many tools as possible? And the autonomy piece is, can you figure out which tool works well in that scenario? So have as many things available to you, and also help you become an independent thinker so you know which tool to use in which circumstance. And that's exactly how we set up our training environment, is so that goalkeepers have an opportunity to like grapple with their tools that they have available to them and which one to use in which circumstance.
I love that. And I think it opens up the environment to all goalkeepers of you can be any size and your game is just going to look different. It doesn't mean that it's wrong or bad. It just looks different if you're a 5-foot goalkeeper versus a 6-foot goalkeeper. You know, there's a space for you. Your game just is going to look a little different.
That's a great point. That's why we think it's really important that size isn't necessarily like the deciding factor in goalkeeping. It's any size. To your point, any size can work. You just have to make sure you know what your skill set is, and maybe you aren't 6 foot tall, but you're quick, or your in possession is just so incredible that you can solve so many problems, and that's your X factor. So I think our training allows people to explore that and find out what their X factor is. Because if we're all forced to play the exact same way, I might not realize that I have this incredible skill that no one else has and I don't get to utilize it, All right, number two. Number two is working with the best players in the world is that every person is a work in progress. Is that every single person that shows up to our TKI sessions is a work in progress. No one is the final product, and every single one knows that they're going to walk on the field with two things. I'm going to be vulnerable today because the only way to improve is to stretch. The only way to improve is to challenge and make mistakes and fail. If you're 10 out of 10, you're not getting any better. There's no better than 10 out of 10, right? So every single time that someone comes into our training environment, even if no matter what level you're at, you are coming because you know that you are a work in progress and you have areas of your game that you want to continue to improve on, that you want to hone, that you want to explore. And the only way to do that is to come in a vulnerable mindset, because you know you're going to make mistakes, because you know that you're going to be against also some of the other best goalkeepers in the world, and you have to allow your guard to come down and say, this isn't a ego measuring contest. This is literally me trying to work on something in a really, really safe space. And so for the young goalkeepers that are listening to this, no matter what level you get to, no matter how great of a goalkeeper you become, you will always have things to work on. There is no finish line. Even if you became the best goalkeeper in the world and you won every single award and trophy available to you, you would still have things to work on. As high as disguise passes and 1v1, decisions, to as simple as altering your set shape. That is, some of the best goalkeepers in the world, we worked on altering their set shape in minor ways in different situations. So embrace it. The quicker you realize that you will never reach the finish line, the easier it will become to wrestle with your mistakes in training. The easier it will become to overcome getting it wrong 10 out of 10 times. They're scoring now on me 10 out of 10 times. And that you can still keep a great mindset, even though it's hard.
So let me ask you this. How do you set that tone? How do you create that environment that makes people step in and say, okay, I'm willing to recognize I'm not there yet. I'm willing to fail. I'm willing to explore, because, some off seasons, it's people we have worked with X amount of years. And then usually every off season, there's someone who might be brand new to TKI. So how are you setting that environment? What is maybe something that like goalkeepers could do to maybe prime themselves for that environment?
I think we have a reputation that precedes itself in terms of we're all about development. Like, I literally do not give a rip about winning. It doesn't fulfill me. It does not do anything for me. Winning, improving, training, growing, working on something that's really hard. That's where I find so much fulfillment and so much joy. So I feel like people know that when they come to TKI, that they're going to be challenged, and that is a given. And so it really is just up to each singular individual to come in with a mindset of like, all right, I know I'm going to be challenged and I'm willing to work on it. But also, like, we did a presentation. First of all, when people got to TKI in December, I looked them all in the eye and I said, I do not want to change anything about you. I don't want to change anything about you. My job is to add. My job is to not change. My job is to add some awareness about X, Y, and Z. My job is to add, help you add another tool not telling you that you have to change this part of you. It's just giving you some new ideas. And to me, that's like a much easier avenue to create buy-in, because I'm like, you're already great. I'm not trying to change you. My job isn't to like make my stamp on you. It's just to help add something that maybe you aren't aware of yet, or maybe you need a little bit more time to explore. And the second thing is, when we got to San Diego, I literally said to them, Tori, this is maybe an analogy that you can understand. When you took the SAT, did you have to take the SAT for getting a score or no? Were you trying to get a certain score?
No, I did terrible on the SAT.
Did you have were you like thinking about like, I really should get a good score so that I can get into a college or something like that? Or
Yeah,
did you ever take a big test?
taking plenty, yeah.
Okay. Do you remember what it felt like to take that test? Like,
Yes.
were you anxious? Were you stressed? Were you overwhelmed?
I lived a lot of my youth life that way, yes.
Yeah. I I can remember doing a whole PSAT course, or like a SAT prep class or something like that. And I can remember having to think, I need to get a certain score so that I can go to Villanova. And it wasn't like, oh, I need to learn what this word reverberate means. It wasn't about a process. It was literally about getting a certain score so that I could get into the college that I wanted to go to. And because I was so focused on that outcome, it produced so much anxiety within me when I was taking that test, right? And that's sometimes how people live their life every single day. This constant anxiety of like, I need to get to my goals. I need to achieve this goal. I need to get a stat. I need to get this amount of saves or this amount of clean sheets. And it produces so much anxiety and overwhelm and stress that it isn't the best place for us to perform in, right? Imagine living your life every day like that. And so I said, you guys, like, when you go with your teams in the NWSL, there are elements of game day that feel like that, but it shouldn't be every day. We also want to embrace the complete opposite end of the spectrum of recess. We want to embrace how much fun it is to go on the monkey bars and explore how many rings that you can get for fun, or playing tag with your friends. It wasn't about an outcome at recess. It was just about enjoyment and exploring your boundaries of like your movement and like being outside in the sun and away from school and just taking a break, right? So there was this in our presentation, it was just about recess. And every time someone was having a hard time, like, I was just like, all right, you guys, we're embracing the recess. And it was just like a little mental reset, and like a fun, jovial way. Because sometimes, like, when I'm uncomfortable, I make a joke because it lightens up the mood. And so we just kind of embraced recess, and we enjoyed ourselves. And everybody had, to their credit, coming in a really vulnerable way, a great time, because they were playing with incredible goalkeepers that they could learn from, that they could watch, that they could collaborate with, that they could ask questions. And it was no competition, right? It wasn't like, I'm making a judgment about you. I told them, I've already judged you. You're amazing people. That's the only judgment I need to make about you, right? So it was me designing the environment that I want, but them really embracing it and upholding it. Because I can design all I want, but if they don't embrace it and they don't uphold it, it doesn't really matter. That was a long-winded answer. Sorry.
But you gave me everything I wanted. And I think it's important for maybe the youth goalkeepers or the college goalkeepers that might be listening to hear that, because that's their environment. You get in the youth game, there's a good chance there's going to be another goalkeeper on your team, right? So sometimes it's going to feel like there's competition. Or the collegiate level, I'm going to go with there's usually at least 2, most times 3 to 4 goalkeepers on your team. And you have to know what it looks like to step into a training environment, expecting yourself to fail so you can get better and work on those things that you're trying to add into your game, but not be so worried about what the person next to you can do or can't do, and make it more, okay, this is enjoyable. That's why I'm doing it and I'm investing so much time in it, but also here's how I'm going to make sure that I'm emphasizing the things that I need to get better at.
Here, what did you think? How was it for you to be in the environment?
It was great. To your point, I did see how they treated it like recess and they were having a lot of fun. And I think that was really amazing on your part of setting that tone and creating that environment, because with the pros, like, this is their job, it's very serious, and like they're taking this very seriously, and it's their preseason training. But when we were actually in the practice, it was all smiles, it's all fun, we're playing soccer very freely, and I think that is what brings out the best of you in training, and that's what adds to your game. And having that as a foundation was really important, and really great to see them all collaborating and working together.
And I think that this is a good segue for us to get to our last one, because I think it's pertinent that everybody understands this. And I don't know, when you guys were young players, if you ever thought to yourself, if I could just get to whatever level, right? Like when you're a young player, if I could just get to, the ODP team, that was big for me back then, right? Or if I could just make that regional team, or get into a youth national pool, or get to college, or every time that you achieve something, there was a small part of you that enjoyed it, right? And then immediately thinking about succeeding at that level, and then what's next and beyond, right? And I think it's important that you have those goals and ambitions for your career, but your problems don't get solved when you achieve those goals and ambitions. And this brings me to my third point, is that pressure doesn't discriminate. Pressure doesn't care what level you're at. You could be an 8-year-old and you can experience pressure, and you could be a professional and you can experience pressure. And it it isn't like once you get to this level, it's going to be easier, or it's going to be better, or it's going to be more enjoyable. It's pressure at every level. And it doesn't matter if you're the backup, if you're the first string, there's pressure on every single person. And it's really important to note that pressure isn't necessarily negative. It's just, it's not inherently bad, right? Because, the pressure of the SAT forced me to study, and I did study, and now I know what the word reverberate means, right? But it's bad. It can be a negative. It can have a negative effect on us when we deem it as bad. Oh my gosh, I'm under so much pressure. I'm so stressed. I'm so anxious, when we really have an opportunity to regulate that. And I thought in our training camp that the players embrace that, is that there is pressure, because they are performing against, some of the best goalkeepers in the world next to them, right? Some of them were teammates at some point, and there's this natural inclination to want to compare myself to so and so, or want to perform better than some of the other goalkeepers in my session, right? Like everybody goes in wanting to be, I want to own this session. I want to be the best one. I want to be my best self. And there's this pressure, this external pressure, there's an internal pressure. And I think the more willing we are to wrestle with that pressure and understand my response to that pressure, the more we can have a more favorable response to that pressure. It's never going to go away, no matter what level. It's always going to be there. And it doesn't necessarily have to be bad. If we can start to embrace it, right? I am feeling pressure. I am having a emotional response to pressure. Great. Now I can figure out, how do I regulate that response, right? I'm feeling anxiety. Here's how I regulate it. Personal example, I get game day anxiety, just like when I played. And when I first got into the NWSL as a color analyst, it ran itself rampant. I would have terrible bodily reactions to that anxiety, and it caused me to freeze. It caused me to get in my head during games. I would go to, worst case scenario is that they're never going to have me back. I'm going to get fired, all these things, right? Until I started to just understand, okay, it's there. I have a game plan now for my anxiety when I'm feeling it. And it's not necessarily bad. It's just an indicator for me. I need to do my, pregame routine. I need to take some deep breaths. I need to say my mantra. I need to embrace this right now, because my body is nervous, and that's okay, because it means something to me, right? And I think sometimes, this is a side note, but I think sometimes we're always training for 10 out of 10. We're always training. I want to have my best game every game. And that's just not reality. You cannot have your best game every game. Like, you're not going to PR every time you run, right? I'm training right now, and I'm not going to get a PR every single time. But you know what I've done is I've stopped chasing the ceiling and I've started thinking about how do I elevate my basement? How do I elevate my basement so that I don't have a 2 out of 10 game and I don't have a 10 out of 10 game back to back to back to back. And I'm constantly 2, 10, 2, 10. That most of my games that I'm hoping to, I'm aiming for is a 6 out of 7. And if I do my routines, if I do my breathing, if I do my mistake recovery system every time, I'm going to be a solid 6 to 7 out of 10. I might be a 10 out of 10 some games, but I'm never going to be under a 6 out of 7 because I'm in control of that, and I've managed the pressure and I've managed my emotions regarding that pressure. So if you're a young player and you're like, man, I feel a lot of pressure before games, so do we all. We all do. And no matter what level you get to, it's always going to be there. So you might as well start embracing it right now and figuring out how you can regulate it.
Ain't that the truth?
Long-winded answer, sorry.
I think you were on the national team when you guys had that phrase, pressure makes us, right?
Yes, I was, yeah.
That poster from soccer.com magazine was up in my room as a kid. Yeah, so you're probably on it, and I didn't know that yet, that we're going to become best friends one day, So pretty cool.
Right, right.
But I think that is great because at the end of the day, whether you're thinking about that phrase or you're thinking about what you just said, pressure will always be there. And our mindset around how we choose to perceive it or how we treat ourselves when we're experiencing it is what's going to make the difference. And if you take anything away from this podcast, bullet point 3, I think could be applicable to anybody. It doesn't matter if you're a coach listening, if you're a parent, or if you're a player. There will be pressure in your life, and we have to have this mindset around it that can actually be effective, right? Just like my set shape, it needs to be effective. Otherwise, it's going to drag me down, or it's going to feel like this heaviness I can't hold. So I think if we can all look at pressure and have a way to handle it or a way to see it or just acknowledge it, hey, it's there. Okay, I'm going to go on. It's going to feel a lot better in your day-to-day, your game, your training, whatever area of life you're talking about it in.
Yeah. Kira, did you experience that as a player? Because you're just coming out of your playing career.
Yeah, I definitely experienced a lot of pressure and game day anxiety, and I don't feel like I had the proper tools to deal with it at the time when I was playing in college. So it's great to be on the other side of that and give back to athletes and tell them oh, this is normal. Everybody is feeling this, and this is how you can handle it. And also changing my mindset around pressure, because I experienced it even when I was coaching in college too, of just this is a privilege. I'm feeling pressure because there's something that is really important to me on the line. And, even if we come up with a win or a loss, that doesn't matter. It's more about the experience of being here and feeling that pressure and changing that, not calling it anxiety anymore. I'm feeling excited, reframing my mindset around that of oh, I'm not anxious and scared. I'm actually excited. And that's what that pressure is. It's a privilege.
I love that. I'm going to start using that here. Okay. We always end our podcast with a question, because you're a listener. Tori, is it your turn? Is it my turn? I'm not sure. It's 2026.
In 2026, I don't remember anymore whose turn it is. I'm just gonna shoot you straight. There's no need to lie about it.
Okay, I'll go. I have a question. Is there anything specifically that you're looking to do, refine, challenge, anything in 2026 about yourself and the way that you live your life?
That's actually a very loaded question for me at this current moment.
Okay.
Because I want a lot of hobbies, but we'll unpack that at a later date. So I'm trying to decide what hobbies I'm going to stick with. But in terms of a life question, I've done a lot of reflecting lately, and something that I know I want to include more of, not just in 2026, but beyond, in the rest of my life, is just an awareness of my needs and an awareness of the needs of the people who are important to me. So I have an amazing inner circle, and that has rang true more now than ever. And I want to make sure that moving forward, I am honoring that inner circle, but I'm also honoring myself. So I have a habit of getting deep into things and not coming up for air and taking time to spend with my friends or make time for my family or make time for myself. And that's something I want to bring an awareness around and make sure that that's a priority for me moving forward.
Nice. I love that. What about you, Kira?
I think a lot of my goals are just surrounded by adjusting to New Jersey. Apparently, we're gonna get a ton of snow this weekend, so we'll see how I handle that. And like Tori said, I've been picking up some new hobbies. I discovered Pilates, and as a former athlete, that's the best thing ever. It's like team lift or something like that. I don't know. I'm loving it.
Nice.
But yeah, and then just pouring into this job and working with kids and giving them the best coach that I can be. I'm looking forward to that a lot.
Oh, that's great. I was on the treadmill on Sunday and I was like dreading it, getting on this treadmill. And I got on and I was like, after like 10 or 15 minutes, I was like, I feel so good. I feel so good. And I was thinking that there's nothing like sexier or like more attractive than a woman in alignment. That's how I felt in that moment on the treadmill. And I was like, you know what? I am living my life in alignment to what I want it to look like. And I am making the choices that I want to live out in my life and that are important and priorities to me. And I was like, you know what? Just like alignment was really important to me. And that one word, my word for the year is peace, but I really think that it comes from alignment. So the ultimate goal is peace. My KPI is alignment.
Love that.
Peace
That was
be
great.
with you, Jillian.
Thank you. And also with you.
Thank you.
You guys, we love you so much. That's why we do this podcast. We want to help and support you. If there is ever anything that you guys need, please reach out. West Coast is our sponsor. They have the best gloves, the best balls, the best dummies, the best gear for goalkeepers in the country from youth to pro. Please check them out. And we have some incredible events that we're going to be unleashing soon. And yeah, we just love you guys so much. And we're always in your corner. So until next time, we will catch you later.
Catch you later.
Bye.
Yeah.